we were just thinking maybe we could do Buddha's birthday outside if the weather's nice, which would be sweet. And it's a wonderful celebration with flowers and chanting the Metta Sutta, and come if you can, and even if you can just come for the afternoon, come and and if you come, or even if you don't come, you could send it telepathically, whatever that. We need lots of flowers, and it would be nice to have cookies. So ideally, although I'm not, it would be nice to have home-baked cookies for the Buddha, but we'll see what shows up. Just a hint, but we'll be grateful for whatever arrives. And then I want to say thank you to Marianne for her talk last Thursday. And if you didn't hear it, I would recommend going back and listening. I asked her to talk about interfaith practice, which is her practice. And it's actually something I've wanted to bring forward more over time here and in my life. So that was a really nice entry. I last Thursday was at the Interfaith Leaders Sanctuary Council, which was also really lovely to be there with ministers and rabbi and people of faith from across the county, planning amongst other things. Well, you can see that there's now a sign on the door about this church being a sanctuary church, and there will be next Wednesday, April 16th, from 5 to 6 at Courthouse Square. There will be, it's a rally and a press conference celebrating the churches and the synagogues that are declaring themselves as sanctuaries in these times. I'm on the ritual committee. Who wants to do ritual? So it will be short, and there will be, the minister here is leading a song, and the ritual will be, people are being encouraged to bring strips of cloth. Somebody said, oh, all my church ladies have lots of strips of cloth. So strips of cloth that will pass around, and everyone there will tie them together, and that it will then go to different churches and synagogues and places of sanctuary as a reminder and an energetic connection of that we're all in this together. So I know Debbie's going to bring some cloth, and
But you have to tell me what size.
the recommendation is about 3 feet long and a couple of inches.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. So I'm so glad to be doing this. Actually, I've wanted to do something like this for a long time. Oh, and also we have Nancy Doherty's going to help me with this. A Ukrainian person has translated Zen Mind Beginner's Mind into Ukrainian. Just think, all the little things and all the little ways that we can just do something that says we care. And Nancy, as some of you know, has taken Ukrainians into her home, and she's connected to the Ukrainian community in Sonoma County. And so this will be passed along. It's so cool. It's all in Ukrainian. I mean, what a beautiful labor of love.
Excuse me, Chris, there's a question
Oh, yeah.
from Judith. She wants to know what time it starts.
Oh, on Wednesday, the 16th, 5 o'clock, Courthouse Square. Great. Yeah, it'd be great if you come. And if you want to wear your rakusus, if you have one, you don't have to, but I wear mine just because it makes me happy. So when I contemplated what were important teachings to bring forward in this time, we're continuing loving kindness. We'll do some chanting, this sitting on Sunday too. My first thought was Dogen. But then I thought, no, I think we need something really simple. We're going to do Dogen after this, because Dogen is beautiful and poetic and deep and broad and wide, and emptiness, and form is emptiness, emptiness form. But the Eightfold Path of the early Buddhist teachings, the Theravadan traditions, and the Four Noble Truths just seem so simple. So I want to keep bringing that forward. We're going to each week we'll do one of the wings of the Eightfold Path, and today is going to be sort of a review of what mostly I think I've done on Tuesdays, and then we'll go forward next week. Gil Fronsdale is an old friend and the leader of the Redwood. He's got a big sangha down in Redwood City, I think. He has a commentary on the Eightfold Path. And I wanted to, I'm mostly going to just bring forward some of his language because it's so simple. But I want to tell a couple of things about Gil first. Gil was in the garden with Wendy Johnson and I back in the day at Green Gulch Farm. Wendy and I were co-leaders of the garden, and Wendy and I, being who we were running around caring like mad. You know, we were caring about every little broccoli seedling and every little flower and very. And Gil was much cooler. Clearly had a deeply caring practice, but different. I think of that now in his teachings, you'll see. And I always remember too about Gil at San Francisco Zen Center, there are mountain seat ceremonies where when someone becomes an abbot, there's this big ceremony. It's really lovely and wonderful to behold and participate in. And senior people stand up and say something to the new abbot to be. And because it's Zen, it's usually it's usually very Zen, you know, it's very poetic and it's very broad. And what I always appreciated about Gil is he would stand up and he would say something really simple. Just really just warmed my heart that his language was just so simple and direct. And I also want to say that when I was doing retreats with veterans, Iraq and Afghan veterans, he would always open his place and let us do retreats there free of charge. So he's one of the few of us who's both Dharma transmitted in the Zen realm and also an acknowledged Vipassana teacher. So he holds both traditions. So that's part of why I want to bring him forward too. I want to say again, I was happy to read because in the Eightfold Path, it's right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right. Did I say all of them? Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. We'll touch on each one of them. But right isn't opposed to wrong. Right, actually, the literal translation is sama, which means to unite, which feels we're back in the Sandokai. We're uniting the relative and the absolute in each moment. The actualization of the phenomenal world and the source of existence coming together through our actions of body, speech, and mind. And I'll also just say briefly that the way the Eightfold Path is thought of traditionally is you could say there's three-legged stools. One is the focus on prajna or wisdom, which is right view and right intention, which is the way you enter the path. Of course, is what's your view, and that's what we're going to focus on today. What's your intention? But of course, that's always it. I mean, it weaves through everything. So this isn't like well, okay, now I graduated from right view, now I'll go to right into, is it's moving. So that's, the second is based in ethics, which is precepts in our tradition, which is morality, which is right speech, right action, right livelihood. How are you living and embodying this in this life? And the third is right concentration, which is includes right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration or right meditation. But now we'll go to Gil, okay? He says, and I'm paraphrasing some of this and editing a lot, but the Eightfold Path is the earliest formulation from the teachings of the Buddha on the path of practice. He says, if people ask you, what's a Buddhist and what do Buddhists do? It's the simplest answer. What do people do when they engage in Buddhist practice? He says, I love this notion of a path, the idea of a path through the woods. He goes on to say there's two ways that you might traditionally and in the traditions view a path. One is if you want to get to someplace in the woods or to the other side of the woods, you follow the path and you get there. You get from A to B. So it's a path where other people have put their feet. And that's actually really helpful. I love that. You know that feeling when you get a little lost, you're on the trail and then you get a little lost and then you see some footsteps and there's something so reassuring about that. Oh, I mean, you shouldn't always follow footsteps because you never know where they're going, but often it will, it grounds you, it helps you. And the second is, he says, a path that's more like a path that has a vista or a view. The point is to enjoy the walk and enjoy what you see as you walk along. It becomes something that we fulfill in every step, in every moment of mindfulness, every breath, just to be fully present as we live our life moment by moment. Now, happily, Gil puts forward that there's this third idea about the path that can fulfill both functions. Maybe we could say a middle way. That each moment is complete, each moment of practice is complete, and at the same time, it puts us on a path that leads us someplace through the woods. Which is a little different than the way Zen is like, don't get attached about where you're going. But the Eightfold Path is actually pretty clear, and I think we need both. And it's rooted in the Four Noble Truths. That what we all want is a life that's free from suffering. Everybody wants to be happy. Each step is a gradual letting go of suffering, letting go of the causes and conditions of suffering, until eventually we get to the other side of the woods where there is no suffering left at all. The absence of suffering is called liberation in Buddhism. And then he goes on to say that it's a remarkable experience to even have a small glimmer of what that might be. I think that's faith. I don't ever expect to be free from suffering. I sort of think actually bodhisattvas, my suffering teaches me, it tenderizes me, it deepens me, it makes me wiser. And I would really like to do as little harm as possible through my actions of body, speech, and mind, and to help seed that and cultivate that in the world. He says, first, it's remarkable to experience, to see the extent to which our minds and hearts suffer. He says, they don't usually tell you this when you begin practicing. Something happens along the way. And we become increasingly sensitive to the degree to which suffering is going on in our own lives and in the world around us. Like I was sort of suffering and I was doing fine. And now I'm just, it's like, I'm feeling very sensitive about the suffering in the world. And was this path a good idea? I mean, I think we all sort of go through a little bit about that. Become very sensitive to the quality and nature of your thinking and your thoughts, your own delusion, confusion. It's like, oh my goodness. We become aware that much of the thinking that we do has qualities of suffering or oppression or burdensome nature in the thinking itself. And of course, forms, feelings, sensations, impulses, all of the 5 skandhas. And then, if you extrapolate from that and seeing it in yourself, there are 6 billion people in the world, many of them whose mind functions the same way as ours, and feelings and sensations. And you realize the tremendous magnitude of suffering that exists in the world. And then once you know that, that's the birthplace of compassion. It's like, wow, okay, what do we do now? Eightfold path. Buddha was so wise. 8 elements, 8 steps to this path, and you can follow them. And the first of these steps is called right understanding or right view. Gil says it's easier to translate it as right orientation. Because view suggests that, oh, you got a view and then you got an opinion, and okay, now I got it. I'm going to look at it through. Somebody was saying the other night, it's like you're seeing the world through a straw. Okay, now I got the view that I'm going to see it through. And that there's a right kind of truth to understand, but rather it's a right kind of orientation that you have if you want to walk the path. I said to Bruce this morning, I was going out the door because I was actually sort of excited about this, because I'm confessing, I don't think it was ever so clear to me that right view was the 4 Noble Truths, that there's a direct line. And I said to Bruce, what do you think right view is in the 8 Noble? Because Bruce is also, you know, he's been doing this forever and ever, and we have these kind of conversations. We're lucky to have that. And he said, which is the right answer too. I mean, that it's interconnection, interbeing, which is absolutely the truth. But there is something very grounded about the 4 Noble Truths. Is there is suffering, there's a cause of suffering, there's release from suffering, and there's a way to enact it and live it moment after moment. And Gil, the Buddha's teaching was that the right orientation to have is that the understanding of life in the framework of the 4 Noble Truths. Seems so very pragmatic, very, very practical. The Buddha was suggesting that if you want to find liberation from suffering, yourself or for the world, then the easiest and simplest and cleanest way, he uses the word cleanest, he uses the word simple and clean a lot, which is really interesting. The simplest way to do that is to focus on the questions and orientation that help you understand your life from the point of view of the 4 Noble Truths. 4 Noble Truths, just go over them again and again. This is not advanced. I said earlier, I always thought the 4 Noble Truths was like, okay, that was Buddhism 101. This was the simple stuff. And then we go on to Dogen, and then we go on to, and at some place a few years ago, I remember thinking, wait a minute, the 4 Noble Truths. There's something here that's really important to return to and to cultivate. The 4 Noble Truths are very simple. The first noble truth is that of suffering, that there is suffering. Suffering occurs in human life. The second noble truth is that there is a cause of that suffering, and that cause is found in clinging. The third is that there is a possibility to end that suffering, And that becomes peace and happiness and a compassionate abode for everyone. And the fourth noble truth. It's the path leading to liberation, which is the Eightfold Path. It is kind of circular, right? We have this Eightfold Path, and the first step is to understand that this path is useful. 1, becoming free from suffering is to be sensitive to it, to tune into it when it's there. Human beings have a tremendous capacity to ignore their suffering, or to not pay attention to it, or to deny its existence, to avoid it, or to overlook it. Sometimes people do pay attention to their suffering, but they do it in ways that are not so useful. For example, people get attached to their suffering. So the first thing is to look at the suffering. 2, the second thing is to understand that there is a cause of the suffering. The Buddha said the cleanest, quickest, and most effective way of ending your suffering is, you ready? Simple. Not to assign blame outside. Even if people and situations have created conditions for you to suffer. Should I say that one again? Forever. We all write this on our mirrors and our dashboards and our, not to assign blame outside. Even if, I mean, I'm really sure. He said, the Buddha said, don't look outside and blame the world outside you, but rather turn the attention in to see that particular cause within you which creates the rise of your suffering. Where is the attachment? What am I clinging to here? Or what am I resisting? Which is another way of saying, what is the compulsion operating right now? That's a strong word, but I know the feeling and taste of compulsion around my reactive conditioning. It is not easy to find sometimes, but it is possible with the orientation to look at it. 3, isn't this fun? It's so simple and clean and clear. The third noble truth is the happy news. Then you will taste the experience of peace, of liberation, and happiness. The heart is innately happy and at peace. It's really important. The heart is innately happy and at peace, but it's covered with all these attachments, the hindrances, the defilements. You can call them whatever you want. But when we do loving kindness, it's like we're coming home to our true self, to the heart that is, to the beating heart of the universe. If you can let go, if you can learn to let go of attachments, you will naturally be happy, because that is the nature of the heart itself. Bruce and I had a fight last night. We don't do that often. It really hurts when you do that. It hurts your heart. You know, the other person's heart is hurting. I mean, it's true what's happening in the world too. It's like we're having a fight right now, and this just hurts. And we also know that it's possible that there's, Marianne gifted me a ticket to go hear the author of the 1619 Project. I can't remember her name right now. And what's her name?
Nicole Hannah Brown.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I was so moved by her. I just felt like, man, has she been through the fire? Boy, does she know about suffering. And one of the things she said was something like, there's just enough for everybody. It's like, we don't have to be fighting over this in this way. And that she doesn't want to fight over it in that. I mean, she's an African Black woman who's been beat up big time. And 1619 Project was really targeted. She just kept saying, there's enough here for everybody. That's the ground of loving kindness. That's the two wings of wisdom and compassion. And number 4, it is much more difficult to do this work that it takes. It is difficult to do the work it takes to liberate oneself from suffering. You don't just wish it into existence. It is a big endeavor. So the Buddha said you need a path. Buddha was so kind and so wise. So here's a path. And it's the Eightfold Path. The first step is to understand your experience from the point of view of the Four Noble Truths. If you just pay attention to the fact of suffering, the causes of suffering and the end of suffering, just those simple things, every other spiritual question that is important will come to you as you just pay attention to those. In a sense, you create the path for yourself in your own life by using this compass of the Four Noble Truths. That's the great thing is Buddha's not telling you you have to take on some view because it's his view that he came up with that you have to believe in. He just says, don't put another head on top of your own. Just study your own life, direct experience, and just keep going all the way through. Keep your feet on the path. Keep coming back. Mrs. Gill says, I think of the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path as embodying in a spiritual sense simplicity. I hope you can appreciate the profundity of this simplicity. So maybe because I can't help myself, and then I want you guys to be able to talk, I'm going to throw in a little Zen at the end. I'm really enjoying the Eightfold Path, this compilation of essays by women Zen teachers. And Judith Regier, who writes the introduction, is in the Katagiri lineage, and she quotes him a couple of times. And I always love and appreciate Katagiri Roshi. Just like everything exists in the phenomenal world, your suffering is a being that arises from the original nature of existence. And every moment it returns to its source. So when you see suffering, all you have to do is accept it and offer your body and mind to ultimate experience. Then you and suffering return to emptiness, and there is freedom from suffering. Same thing, slightly different language. Katagiri Roshi said that at the bottom of suffering, you will find emptiness. That at the bottom of suffering, there is a door. That door opens, and you see Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion. Avalokiteshvara can embrace you, and then you can dissolve and become Avalokiteshvara yourself. It's so sweet to have all this different language, different traditions that all point to the same place, whether it's Buddhist or Christian or Judaic or Islam, or we're all just trying to come home to that which we intuitively know and is and are. whatever language helps. Let's keep our feet on the path. That's the path. Okay, we got a little time. It's so simple. You'll keep saying that. And it is, it really is. So let's get together in little groups of, we have about 15 minutes, maybe in groups of 3, and just share together. What is it that's so simple? I mean, without complicating it. What is the simplicity of this path and this practice and this waking up together? And I'll put you, and you can talk about anything you want to, but keep it simple, and I'll put you in groups of 3 here too.